Hello. Welcome to Bite-Sized Media. Bite-Sized? Do we just call it Bite-Sized or Bite-Sized Media?
Either one.
A subsidiary.
A subsidiary.
As we said before, we're watching Sherlock, the contemporary version that aired on the BBC in the 2010s.
I'm Jared, and that's Jake.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I forgot to introduce us.
If you're new here.
Yeah, if you're new here. We're on the second episode. This is, we're already a third of the way through the season. You're right. That is so weird to think about. This is the second of 3 episodes in series. I got to put my pinky out for this. Series 1. It's called The Blind Banker. I don't remember much of it. You know, thinking about this first season, I've seen it before. Jared hasn't had any sort of
first time
reaction to it. So, you know, spoilers for the last episode. You got introduced to the name Moriarty, which of course we know because
his actual arch nemesis in the source material.
Because iconic villain and
which I'm trying to remember any famous Moriartys. Because I don't remember the Guy Ritchie. I can't say movies. I've never seen A Game of Shadows. I've only seen the first one.
Is Moriarty?
I don't know.
Moriarty in that one?
I don't know. All I remember is I think Ralph Fiennes plays him in Holmes and Watson, the Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly movie, which I saw in theaters. And yes, it is as terrible as everyone said. There was one part that made me laugh, and instead of like dog fighting or cockfighting, they had like these kids fighting each other in one shot, and I chuckled. That's the only laugh I got out of that whole movie.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. People talk about John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell like they're some kind of comedy superstar duo. It's all the same joke.
Yeah. People love Step Brothers.
Yeah. I've actually never seen it. I'm annoyed at the jokes that people always
then you won't like it.
Talk about.
But the Blind Banker, I don't know if you pulled anything up to look at like what it's about, because the first one I had no idea. Went in blind, but the one thing I knew was it's the setup. It's how do Sherlock and John meet, and of course I didn't know they'd be flatmates. I just knew, okay, this is the one where they probably meet up, because I knew Watson was a soldier or doctor or both, and I think most he is also a soldier, but in this one it plays it up more, I believe. They go for more of the doctor angle in the source material from what I've heard and read and what we've seen. So this one I have no idea. No idea what it is. And you don't remember, you said?
I don't really remember this one. You know, like I said, thinking about this first season, series. I really remember that first episode because it did make a big impression on me. I don't remember this one that much, but I remember the third episode, spoilers again for our own series, being like me considering it one of the best hour and a half of television I've ever seen.
Next week's?
Yeah.
Wow, we're already at the season finale. Series finale.
Series finale, yes.
Which is weird to say because in the U.S., series finale means the end of the show, but series finale, Britain, is the end of the current run.
Britain has started to call them seasons more because of how they have now kind of synced up with the U.S. in how they air them. That is funny on many levels, given that how much power we now have over Britain.
Well, it's also funny because, not to get into it, but I mean, the short TV season thing is them. A lot of people attribute it to Faulty Towers because there's only 6 episodes, two series, 6 episodes each. And I think that kind of became a British television norm. And then now over here, everything is really short.
Well, whatever. I don't know exactly how it works, but from what I remember reading about it at this time at least, they would only order so many episodes, those 6 episodes at a time, and then you would wait until they either had another set of stuff. It's not like our networks where they'll order, okay, we're going to order 4 seasons at a time.
Yeah, they rarely order more than 1 season.
Anymore?
I think it's very rare. The rare, I think, what's that Matt Groening show? Disenchantment. I think got 2 seasons ordered before.
That's also not a network show.
I know. I'm saying but that's the only thing I've heard of recently where it had multiple seasons ordered. And I know it's a Netflix thing, but it was oh yeah, it's been greenlit for 2 seasons, ordered 2 seasons before it even started.
But this is also 14 years ago. I'm not going to claim to remember how it worked 14 years ago. I'm just saying it could have been different. I don't really know. Someone in the comments, get in there and explain it to us.
Yeah, us dumb Americans.
Yeah. Specifically the two of us.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, let's see how blind this banker is.
All right. Let's get ready to
take a bite.
And welcome back. Well, we just finished watching, what was it, The Blind Banker?
The Blind Banker.
I did not remember why they called it that. And for
because they over the
eyes. Yep. What were your thoughts, Jared?
It feels a lot more like your typical TV episode compared to the last one. Whereas the last one is mostly set up. It felt like something different and new while still having the little traces of being TV. This one felt more like an extended episodic, procedural show. And that's not a bad thing. It's just this one felt more like your standard TV episode.
I was going to say something about that and something a little bit different, I think. So one of my fears, knowing how Moffat writes and kind of knowing at least a little bit of what's coming, I was kind of worried going into this watch that they were all going to sound the same, be about the same, be like written and set up about the same. But I was, as this was playing out, I was like, wow, this is kind of playing out like the first one is super intellectual. And then this one's kind of more action adventure-y.
Yeah, it's more physical. I literally just said last week, or whenever I said, oh, Watson's kind of the more physical part. Well, Holmes is the more, and then the more intellectual. And the first scene, he's fighting someone, and I go, oh, I kind of liked that difference. And I think I told you, the opening fight was kind of weird.
But it doesn't. I think it's meant to give him more athleticism. It's not just I hate saying just a nerd or whatever it is. I still think that Watson has more physicality.
Which is funny because at the Arrow show, Watson runs up to that dude when Holmes is fighting him and just kind of runs into him and gets knocked out of the fight. And I go, isn't he a soldier? Not that he knows a martial art style or anything, but that's how he's going to fight. And he gets kicked out of the fight right away. And then later, he's tied up. So Holmes is doing all the... So, Watson saves the day, but it's man, Holmes is doing the heavy lifting in this episode.
Yeah, but to be fair, he doesn't win. He doesn't fight via physicality, though. He kind of psychs them out with the bullet trivia.
Yeah, but then it becomes all about it becomes physical, and I think that's the biggest difference between this and the first episode. The first episode is more about that intellectual thing, and he wins, quote unquote, by the guy revealing himself. But then it ends up being okay, it's a battle of wits in these last 5-10 minutes. This one's all typical TV procedural action ending, and it's fine. It's just I kind of preferred that first one's suspense. It was a little bit more subversive compared to what we get, where this one does feel more typical TV. I keep saying I'm not trying to say it is a bad thing.
Yeah, well, you have said on this podcast that you're not really a TV person,
and it's because, and these are all good. Right now through 2 episodes, of course, spoilers for these. The thing is, the reveal of Moriarty eventually is what they're building to. You've seen it. It's my guess it could be in the next episode.
Do you want me to tell you?
No.
Okay.
But probably is, and if not, then sometime soon. It's his big arch nemesis, so he's gonna be revealed, and they're building to it. It's a little hard to have a long build when it's 3 episodes for this first series.
Yeah,
That's the trouble with having less episodes, even if the time, because we spend 4.5 hours in this first series, basically 4.5. Yeah. But when it's only 2 separate stories before, if they do reveal them in the 3rd episode of the first series, it doesn't feel as built up because you've only had 2 stories, despite the running time being longer, which in 4.5 hours for a typical American show, that's what? That's 4 or 5 episodes.
Yes.
In that time, so It's weird how when you chop it up more, it does feel longer than if it's just a couple big chunks.
Yeah, I can get that.
And I liked parts of this. There's a more human side to Holmes in this. There's a little bit more characterization on that side of it. Like when he was trying to save, what is her name? I just forgot the Watson's date's name. It's Sarah, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, so Sarah's tied up. She's going to get hit by the arrow thing. And he's like, after it fires, and he's like calming her down for it. It's just a quick thing. And I was like, okay, there's a little bit of human connection and empathy in there. Just a little. Like, not like he's some... It's kind of showing you he's not just some, like, android. There's a little bit there, and I appreciated that, and that's what I've liked about this episode. There's a little more character to him. It feels weird, though, that, again, we've had one story where Watson decides to be loyal to him and stay with him and be his flatmate, and then by the second episode, we don't know how much time has passed, or if any time, like, we don't know. But it does feel like he's already, like, the rolling the eyes at everything Sherlock does that's, like, not within the social norms. He just goes, ugh. It's like, that feels really fast. Again, we don't know how much time has passed. But again, when you have less episodes, it's kind of how it works. But the duo is still really, really effective and great chemistry.
Yeah. So, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've talked about this recently. An actress by the name of Molly Hooper.
Molly Hooper.
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked. So I've talked to someone about someone. If you don't know right offhand, then we must not have talked about it very much.
Okay.
I'm looking at the cast list, and Molly Hooper plays the. I believe she's the coroner. Yeah,
And that's the one that he was in the buffet line thing with, right? The one from the first episode.
Your part makes you look better. The part in your hair.
That's right. That was the other human part. It's like now there's a good chance it's just him trying to get to see the bodies again. But also there is that bit of, like, you have to actually establish some kind of human connection to use that to your advantage. Whatever he's trying to get, it worked. But yeah, I see what you mean. And you brought up again what I brought up last, or actually it was off camera, about how good the music is.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's another thing that I really like. It was apparent to me in the first episode. It was solidified. Our dearly departed for Colorado, Dickie. The duo of Sherlock and Watson reminds me of Jared and Dickie.
Like smarter versions of both of us, because I'm the one that's all like turning around like being all crazy weird with the mind.
He's the one that would purchase tickets for Dickie and Sam to go somewhere, and then be the third one that shows up.
Where it'd be like, what do you mean? Dickie's like, 3? What do you mean 3? And I'd be like, I got a ticket for myself. And in my mind, it's perfect. I can scout out things. I got you these tickets for that sake. And he'd be like, what are you doing?
No, he wouldn't. He'd be all for it. He'd be all for it.
I don't know if it's him and Sam on a date and I just invited myself. They would probably both be like, what are you doing?
I don't know if they would.
I think they would.
I don't know.
Can't speak for you if you're listening. Like, I can't speak for it, but I feel like you would be like, this is kind of weird.
Maybe if he was...
See, I'm used to it. I've been third wheeled my whole life.
Maybe if he was...
I've been fifth wheeled and seventh wheeled before. When we made that comparison, like, oh my gosh. And then, what's her name? The landlady walked up and said, hey, there's Jake. And Jake did not appreciate that.
I am not Mrs. Quidditch. I mean, Mrs. Hudson. Yeah. Maybe I am.
But yeah, so what you'd expect from a TV episode out of this, but there's still a lot of good stuff. And I don't know how much there is to discuss, because when it was starting, I was like, okay,
I think that'll be.
It's feeling like a middle of a TV show episode now because we don't have to establish the characters. And then as it's going, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's pretty straight. This one's a lot more straightforward.
What I do appreciate about the way they write this as opposed to the way usually American TV is written, especially in the last decade for sure. All of the episodes are connected, but only very, very loosely. And they save that all until just kind of the end. It's not the main point of the show.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, although Lost does it very well, there are a lot of shows that since Lost did it very well. They all have to have this massive overarch.
Which I like.
I like it too, but, like, every show does it.
Which I don't mind, but I can understand the frustration because I don't like a typical status quo episodic show where it's like you can plug in anywhere and enjoy it. Because some people out there who are big TV fans are like, that's what I prefer. But then I can throw it on anywhere and just enjoy it. Whereas I'm like, no, I like progression. I like connecting, but it doesn't have to be like anime where it's not. You don't even have to have a full 3-arc story in your episode.
That's a hard comparison.
But like anime, it's not a 3-act structure in a lot of episodes. It's one part of the story because it's adapted from manga.
Yeah.
It's one part of one big story that's not split like beginning, middle, end every episode.
And again, like we've said before, the difference with American TV and this is American TV, you're looking at like 22. I don't know anymore.
Now it's like 10.
When I was watching like network television, like Smallville. Smallville for an example, it ran from 2002 to 2000.
No.
Was it 2000?
It might have been 2000, 2010. That sounds right.
That makes more sense to me because it is a 10-season show. But anyway.
10-season show. Somebody save me. Hey.
One day I'm going to make you watch it.
I am watching it.
You're in season 3. You've been watching it for 6 years.
Actually, I've been watching it for 7 years, and I'm in season 2.
Okay. Anyway, they have, 22, 23 episode seasons except for the writer's strike, which only has like 8.
What was that? That had to be like season 8?
No.
7?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was like 2008,
yeah.
so.
Anyway, except for that one. And
so 2001
it's kind of like it's this thing where like it's an overarching story is built into the whole thing, but it's like not. It's much more effective this way.
Yeah, you're saying Smallville. A lot of episodes are contained as a self-story, but there's something in there, a thread that connects them all.
Yeah, which makes you watch the whole thing, if you're interested. But
again, you can plug in just about anywhere within a season because I know you said season to season it changes.
Yeah, and with a show set up like that, if you want to prep for the season premiere of a show, all you got to do is watch the beginning and the end of the previous season.
Yeah. There's not to go into a whole thing about like when you start seeing patterns in shows, because TV, not every show's the same, but there are certain formulas that they're there for a reason. And what drives me nuts is it's like the end of an episode gets you excited to watch again. That's what it's built to do. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, I have to watch the next episode. And the first like 5-10 minutes,
the thing is answered.
And then you spend, if it's a 40-minute episode, you spend the next like 25 minutes not doing nothing, but it's kind of just, it feels like a filler, or like it's not really building. It's just kind of a lot of talking.
Kind of like the season 1 finale of Smallville.
It's
a little different. So, okay, I'm going to spoil the season 1 finale of Smallville. If anyone really cares at this point, it's 20.
That's the dance.
Yes, but he runs off into the tornado to save Lana.
At the end of the season.
Yes.
That's where like everyone's in peril in their own way.
You will find that is a motif of those writers.
Oh, that's just TV, because they were doing it in the 80s and 90s too, because that's what keeps you coming back.
Funny enough, the new Beetlejuice movie?
Yeah.
You guess who wrote that?
Stephen Knight.
The showrunners for Smallville.
Oh.
Goff and Miller.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, do you want me to finish my thought?
Oh, yeah.
And then the last 5 minutes, they give you the cliffhanger just to end that thought. Just the first 5 answers, the last episode's cliffhanger, 30 minutes of whatever, and then the last 5 they give you a little cliffhanger to keep you coming back. I hate it. It's a waste of time.
I think Smallville, at least with that transition from first to second season, does it a little bit better because, again, you're gonna spoil it. They have Lana in peril and Clark running into the tornado, and that's kind of the main thrust. Like, everyone else is in trouble,
but it's the one that's like, are Lana and Clark will be fine. Is Lana going to be okay?
Yeah, like what's because the last thing you think you see in Lana is her in the truck.
That's right.
With her hand, and so. The opening of the second season is the aftermath of the tornado, and Jonathan is stuck under a trailer.
That's
and
right.
Because it's lead, Clark can't see through it, so they can't find him, and they can't breathe, and he's stuck down there with the dude.
That's right.
It does that well. It doesn't do that well consistently through the season transitions, but that first one it does well.
But in the case of Sherlock, coming back to Sherlock, it's doing some of the same tropes, but because there's only 3 episodes of series, it seems like I think there's 4. That's right. But the way because there are less episodes, it doesn't feel as gimmicky because they're tying most of the loose ends of this one story while keeping the thread going into the others, and I do appreciate that. And it's a season finale next, series finale next, so it's like
pinky up.
So it makes sense. Like, yeah. I'm in. I've really enjoyed it so far.
Well, like I say, of the 6 or so episodes I've watched, this one is my favorite. Like
the next one.
I
was gonna say not the blind banker.
The blind banker, but I remember the first time I watched this, I was like, what? I was very much in that mode of everything needs to connect, and like this doesn't a whole lot.
I'm not going to say filler, but it is literally between the two halves.
Well, I just think that every episode is intended to be an interpretation of one or several of the Sherlock Holmes stories. So they are sort of contained.
And when you have 3 episodes, the first one establishes how this series will be, and then the last one is concluding it. So that middle one, it's like, how do you connect these? And that's why you could call it filler a little bit, because we don't. Unless we'll see. I'll see. But we don't learn much about either of them in this episode. That's the other thing, because the first episode is setting them up and a little bit of backstory.
Yeah,
this one doesn't really do anything because there's other things going on.
This one is more about, like, it doesn't even do that much. Like,
it's more action-focused.
Yeah.
And I even said to you, like, I kind of want to just spend more time of the two of them sitting in their flat talking, because the interaction and the chemistry between them is so good and it's fun. And just having them hang out, like, I could watch a whole episode of them just hanging out, which could be a thing. I don't know, but that's how I feel about it. They're moving around so much that it's making me go, could we stay somewhere for a little bit longer? That's not a criticism; that's a preference. I'd watch a bottle episode of this.
I think there probably will be one eventually.
Yeah, which excited for that. But yeah, that's the blind. I almost said the blind bandit. That's Avatar. The blind banker.
Yeah. You got anything else to say? All right. Well, why don't you lead us out with the socials?
You can listen to us off Slate Media on Facebook, Instagram, the funny TikTok, and X.
Formerly Twitter.
And you can listen to us on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and hey, if it's YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, remember, I'll check out our groovy website. We're going to be continuing our Sherlock series. Jake, do you know the name of the next episode? I have it. I'm just wondering if you know it. If you have it pulled up.
Something. It's not the Reichenbach Fall. The Reichenbach Fall is the second one. The second series finale. Something problem, I think.
No. It is The Great Game.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the one you said is like the greatest, one of the greatest hour.
It's one of the most funs I ever had.
Most funs.
It's
funs.
One of the. It's like the runs. Oh.
That was the point of the joke before you spelled it out. I'm starting to think you're more like Sherlock for just.
Someone's got to fill in for Dickie.
There we go. Anyway, that's next week, Phil.
Yeah, it's one of the most fun hours of television I've had, at least on the first watch I had.
10 years ago or more when you watched it.
14 at this point.
On Groupthink or whatever you called it.
News groups.
I was close.
It's not on it. You download it and then you watch the file.
I don't know.
You just don't know anything about technology, do you? It hates you anyways, so.
Yeah. But yeah, that's this week's episode.
Yeah. So whenever you're ready, come back and watch us on Thursday. I can't think of any catchy names like Dickie does. So we're just watching Sherlock on Thursdays.
Make sure to
take
a
bite.